Hey, happy Monday night, first night for NFL Monday Night Football. Welcome to the fourth episode of FCA Coach's Corner. I am tickled to death tonight for our guest, who I'm going to introduce in a minute, Coach Lemont Jones, the head basketball coach at Polk County High School. But before we get into that, Billy Graham said it best when he said one coach can impact more lives in 1 year than most people can their entire lifetime. Two most important words on any campus in America, any youth league organization, anywhere where there's sports, is coach said. And at Fellowship of Christian Athletes, we take that very seriously, and we want coach said to mean something positive for the youth that we come in contact with. So without further ado, Coach Jones, thank you for coming on the show tonight. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you having me.
Hey, tell us a little bit about your family. Tell us a little bit about Lemont Jones, man.
Okay. I hope your ratings don't drop. Anyway, my wife, Peggy, she's an RN, and everybody knows about the virus thing. So she go out every day, man. She's a real stormtrooper. But she works at a hospice to throw that in. So that takes a special person to work at hospice. And I think she's fit for that calling. And I have a son and a daughter who they're grown and gone now, but they're tremendous kids. They're doing their own thing, I call it. But other than that, man, I've been married over 35 years, and it's been rough, but I tell you, God paired up two good people.
Oh man, that's so exciting and good to hear. Coach, now you've got almost 300 wins as a head basketball coach, and you've been in 3 different states. Man, tell us a little bit about what has been going on, man, and all these different states you've coached in, and kind of some of the differences and what God's done with you with that.
Okay. When I was at Lenore Ryan, I said the first job I got a chance to, whoever gives me an opportunity to coach and teach, I'm going to jump on it. So I throw out all these fillers, and all of a sudden, Green Cove Springs, I've never heard of it. Green Cove Springs, Florida. They come on down. I came on down. Got that job down there. That's how I ended up from North Carolina to Florida in '85. And from that on, I stayed there for 16 years. Actually, I was in a country town. Then I went to the city in Duval County, which is Inglewood High School, where I spent time there also. So about 16 years in Florida. Then they said, well, why don't you make some money in South Georgia? Georgia's really paying. I said, well, might as well, I got off focus, and all of a sudden money became bigger than coaching. And sure enough, I went to South Georgia, made the money, stayed down there 11 years. And as you get older, you kind of want to come back to family, because I was, take me a weekend to go back to North Carolina 5 hours, because I'm from the eastern part of the state. So me and my wife, we decided to come back to North Carolina. We've been here ever since 2012. But other than that, you talk about the difference in the states and kids. They still got dreams. They still work hard. Of course, the area depends on the attitude of some of the kids. And I've been very fortunate that God has allowed me to visit 6 different high schools. And I think that's where some people get locked in. And I always wish I could stay at one place. But in my heart, I kind of figured, you kind of know when it's time to move. And God kind of, push you out there, and you kind of just feel it. It's just a feeling. You don't go looking. I never went looking for a job. It's always been there. But other than that, I've enjoyed coaching in all 3 states, and I can't pick one over the other. I've learned so much from the different parents, the different settings. But I do remember what the Chad Boseman said, the Black Panther said, when he talked about careers and jobs. He said, purpose is more important than a career and a job. So I think I fell in my purpose. I think, and I always tell the kids, there are two important dates: the day you were born and the day you realize why you were born. And I kind of figured that in the 7th grade, I said, I want to coach. I want to be a coach. And it was for the craziest reason. The coach made me run an extra lap. So I'm running that extra lap. I'm saying, when I get older, I'm a coach and I'm going to run his son. Of course, that never happened, but I stayed on that track. And I also wanted a whistle around my neck because he looked up to that whistle. So that's how I ended up in coaching on something that small. Just a detail like, get that extra lap, boy. And actually, the coach said, I can quote him. He goes, you want to be a star? Be like Lemont at the end of the line. Because we always jog one lap around the football field. And I always was jogging. I didn't know I had to be first. Nobody told me that I had to be first. But he made an example of me. He said, you want to be a star? Be like Lemont at the end of the line. And I was saying to myself, okay. But anyway, that kind of motivated me a little bit to coach.
No, that's awesome. Mine was, always my dad coached, so I got into it for that reason. But yeah, like, Coach said, can be powerful. And a lot of times coaches don't even realize that the words they have can build up a kid or tear them down. And we are so passionate about that with FCA. I always ask coaches this because it's amazing the different aspects. But what is it? How do you define a win, Coach Jones? How do you define a win? What's a win for Coach Jones?
That's amazing. About I don't even count the wins and losses. It don't even matter anymore. When you're young, you kind of think that I'm gonna get a ring, but you realize they're just one state champion every year. So you get a vision of something bigger. And just yesterday, I had a kid call me while I was out walking, and he goes, look, Coach Jones, he was having some problems, and he was having a problem with his brother. And, this guy's probably 37 years old. He goes, I remember what you said, Yellow Jacket basketball, don't build character, it reveals it. Things like that. When they could share something you shared with them, man, that goes a long ways. And then when I look on Facebook and see all those kids that some of those players are raising and they out there throwing ball with them, that makes me feel good. I call them my coach's grandkids. We go back and forth with that. I probably got over 200 now because, some of them jokers, they just have a lot of kids. And I wish I could be part of that. And that's the only thing I hate when you leave the area is you see those kids grow up and you say, man, he's probably as good as his daddy. And you see that guy playing and you're like, man, somebody's got a gem right there because his daddy was awesome. When you get that feeling when the kids come back and say they appreciate you and coach, do you remember you said this? Coach, you remember? I did this because I remember what you said, coach. When they could share a memory with you that you've had some type of impact on their life, that's a win. And like people always say, it may be 20 years down the road, but they remember. And I always say, man, y'all remember everything. If I said that, if I had $1 for every time I told a kid that, I probably wouldn't have a coach. But I would say, man, y'all don't forget nothing. And they really don't. They remember everything you tell them.
Oh, my wife, I retired from the state in December before I came on with FCA. My wife had a retirement get together, and a lot of my former players came. And, you're right, Coach. That just had me thinking of that. Nobody talked about some game where we had won or how many games we won. They talked about some silliness that happened at practice, something on the bus, something I had said, nothing even related to a win-loss.
No.
And I'm like you see those guys come back and their kids are doing well and they're doing well. Going back to that storytelling, though, what's a crazy or funny story from your career, man? Something just nonsense or crazy or out of the ordinary that might have happened.
Well, when I came out of college, I was pretty, to play college football, you've got to be a little loose sometimes. You play on Saturday. I always tell kids that. So I guess it had to be 1990 because we went to Final Four, and I had 2 linebackers, and they were outstanding basketball players too. But they were kin folks too. They always went back and forth. Con and Cornell. We practiced one Saturday morning, and they kept joshing. I'm gonna beat y'all. You do it again. So finally, I blew the whistle. I said, stop. I said, get in the circle. You can't do this now. I said, get in the circle. I said, go get it. I said, box and fight. Go get them. And they couldn't hit the water jumping out of the boat. They were so tired. It was so funny. They got exhausted. I said, are you finished? And they said, yeah. But it was so funny. I put them I said, get in the circle. And them jokers got at it, and they didn't hit one. They didn't touch them. They couldn't break. They were hard. They were better basketball players than boxers, I can promise. But one of them, you know, they were great kids. One of them went to Central Florida, and the other went to Carson Newman. They were great kids. They all graduated with degrees, and that they talk about that today.
Yeah, that's so funny. You know, sometimes kids in football, they'd have those helmets on and they'd just be brawling out there. And, you know, we kind of keep them safe, but back
Oh
off.
yeah.
And then they want to take a break after. No. That's not.
Oh yeah. No, finish it. Get it out of your system.
Back in the huddle.
That was funny. That was funny. The kids died laughing.
Man, that's what's your greatest coaching? I know we've touched on some of this maybe, but what's one of your greatest coaching memories? Maybe a special game or a special outcome or some.
It probably was
thing like that you want to share with us.
It probably was the first time my second year coaching basketball, and we went to the Final Four. I didn't know many X's and O's, but I had some Billy and Joes that could play, and we upset Jacksonville Bulls. They were two-time state champion, had lost to a 2A team in like 3 years. We go in there, gyms packed, crowded, no standing room. It was, I tell you what, when I went out, I had to take a piece of chewing gum because I couldn't hear them breathe. I couldn't see nothing. They couldn't hear me. It was just packed. It was really packed. And the game went back and forth. They had about 5 Division I players. We didn't have but one. And it was a 1-point lead. And it was like 12 seconds. I called a timeout. I said, we're going to take the last shot. We down by 1. We the underdog. I said, we're going to take the last shot. I told them, I said, in this huddle, I said, we going to decide our own fate. Well, we held that ball. Then about 5 seconds, my best player flashed to the free throw line, goes up for the shot. They just zip to him. He drops it down to the 7th man on the team. I said, oh, my God, he threw the ball to Con. Oh, what are you doing, Craig? And he puts it in and gets fouled, makes the shot. We're up 1. He don't know it. So he's got 1 shot. They put 7 seconds on the clock. I said, oh, Lord, here's where they're going to get us. They put seconds on Con. This is the same guy put in the circle. This is the same guy that was in the circle. He bounces the ball. They call a timeout. They like 5 seconds. I said, 7 seconds. He shoots and miss. We're up 1. He don't even know it. He goes flying at the ball. They kick it around and the time runs out and he starts the ball like, we lost. I said, Con, we were up 1. And then that was just great. Then after that, the whole gym just collapsed. That was probably one of the highest moments of my life.
That's an awesome story. I'm surprised Con didn't foul somebody.
I know it. You give him opportunity. He's a football guy, you know, like an elephant in a china closet.
Yeah.
He was pulling and trying to get it. But them guys were looking at the clock, and I said, don't foul nobody. He didn't know. He didn't have no idea what the score was.
Oh, my goodness. I heard you mention Division I. Hey, talk about some of those great players over your career. You don't have to name everybody, and I'm sure you'll leave somebody out. Hey, I'm going to apologize for Coach right now. If you're listening and he doesn't mention your name and you played for.
But probably one of the greatest kids I ever coached, Rasheem Mathis. He's a 15-year veteran that went to Jacksonville, played with the Jaguars the last 3 years. He retired in 2015. That was another great moment. When he retired, he invited 75 people, NFL people. I'm down in Daytona Beach on vacation. NFL come down there and films me for the retirement party, wow, which I thought was just unbelievable. So I got to be in the video with all the NFL stars, and then I get to go to the NFL dinner. And he gets up there on the microphone. He says, I could have filled this whole place up with 500 people, but I invited 75 people that have been a part of my life. I felt pretty good about that. I really felt pretty good about that. But Rasheem went to Bethune-Cookman. He, yes, sir. You know, here's the thing, millions of dollars. And he still say, yes, sir. When I call him, he said, yes, sir. I mean, he still is about as, and we always talked about, yes, sir, take you further than 4 or 5 will. And I preach that to my kids. I said, if you learn to say yes, sir, I remember that. I go 4 or 5 dime a dozen nowadays. I said, but when a kid says yes, sir, and polite, man, that sticks home. But yeah, I had one to play yesterday with Philly, T.Y. McGill Jr. He's a traveling man, but he played yesterday, and they blew the lead at Washington. I think they Philly played Washington, but he went to North Carolina State.
I'm a Washington fan. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, T.Y. McGill, he was a good kid. He came out of nowhere. But other than that, man, I've had some great players and great kids. In fact, Jerry Williams, Rasheem's brother, he probably the best athlete. He was 6'4", 200 pounds. He signs a football scholarship to South Carolina State, go down there, miss the math class, walk over to one of them smaller schools, become freshman of the year in basketball. He ends up playing overseas, being on a school on a traveling bus, player of the year several years, made money over there. He coaches the Jacksonville Giants now. They probably got 5 or 6 rings in a row in that little league they play in. But I've had a chance to be around some good players who didn't go to play NFL. I had several of them. Carlos Osley, great guy, went to Arkansas and played receiver. And then Kevin Johnson played at Missouri, strong safety, quarterback, went to strong safety. I've had some good kids. I just can't name them all. But I'm sure some of them are going to call me tonight and said, but I've had some that went to smaller places and actually done well for themselves. Brad Clark, probably the biggest story. He was a basketball player and nobody gave him a chance. And he ended up playing college ball at Edward Waters. And actually, one year, in Jacksonville, we're on the south side, so we don't get a lot of pub. One year we had Jerry, who he was like ranked in the country with field goal percentage from Inglewood. And Brad was ranked in 3-point percentage in the top 1 or 2. So I had 2 kids playing in the Final Four in that Division II league, which was impressive. But other than that, I've had some good kids to work with. I've been very blessed to have great kids. Yes, sir, no, sir, kid. Because when I get to a place, everybody can't play for Coach Jones because that's just, you got to bring it every day. And I'm a guy that pushes them every day. A sense of urgency. I said, you got to have a sense of urgency play. I said, I'm going to teach you one thing, that A to B, fast as you can. So, but I've been very fortunate and blessed to have some great kids, and I guarantee you, I've had about at least 8 or 9 that's become ministers, which is outstanding. I try to write them all down, but I didn't want to leave nobody out. But the guy in the circle, Con Hodges, he's a man of God. He's a great minister, went to military after he left Carson-Newman. I tell you, I've been blessed to have some of them. When I went through a period of time where, I had a tragedy in my life, I called on him. He's one of my prayer warriors that really, you're talking about me coaching him, and he's coaching me some. So, I mean, I've always can go to him. And but I've had a lot of kids that come through that's really just turned out to be great people. And I always say, sometimes you can't say that C student, he might be a C student, but that has nothing to do with his greatness down the road. So, I mean, you never know how a kid's going to turn out.
Well, you never do. You mentioned that minister part of it. And Coach, it didn't take me long when I came down and watched you interact with your kids when I got on staff here and been around you a little bit. You can tell right away. They say in the Bible, you can tell a tree by its fruit. Well, you can tell right away who runs your ship, and that's Christ, Coach. And how you involved in FCA, and every time I come to a huddle, you're down there, invite me in with your teams, watching how the kids interact with you. They're lucky to have it. Polk County Coach said is powerful in that basketball program down there. Talk to me about how Christ impacts your coaching and a little bit about how FCA has impacted your coaching, Coach.
Yeah, well, I fell into FCA when I went to Lenore Ryan. When I come out of high school, I went to East Carolina because I thought it was a big dog. It didn't take long to find there's a lot of big dogs in the world. So after a year and a half at East Carolina, I went to Lenore Ryan on just faith. My high school coach said, I got somebody for you. So I go out there, never been to Hickory. So I travel up there January of '82. So I'm out there by myself, don't know anybody. And all of a sudden, one of the players said, why don't you come to FCA? So that's how I really got started in FCA. In fact, I ended up being one of the huddle leaders there. And there's this old man, probably about 90 years old. He said, I'm going to tell you something to say every day. He said, you pray for all the people you run into, pray for all your professors. He said, and your grades will turn around. And sure enough, man, I said that little prayer about all the time and pray for everybody around me. Man, I end up making A, B on roll, and I really turned my grades around and just being focused more. FCA got me focused more in academics than anything. But other than that, And then once I left there, I realized that was a great platform for me. So I just took right on to my coaching. And I've heard so many great coaches go to the coaching clinics. I used to go to the FCA breakfasts, and I go like, man, that's powerful. That's powerful. These guys here are still coaching. They still love God. And you know, once you play college football, you're in that locker room. You got to win that locker room. It's tough when you're Christian, you're in that locker room, and they telling jokes, and you like to laugh, and I like to laugh, and they tell a joke, and later I get convinced, like, man, you know, that was a bad situation there. You know, God, you know, He knows already. So He puts you in places where you gotta fight for yourself, you gotta dig yourself. But that has helped me so much that I'm very fortunate to be a part of FCA, and everywhere I've gone, we've had FCA. I wish we'd had it in high school, but we didn't. We do have it now down at North Duplin. The football team's doing absolutely great. They had a big article. I was just tickled pink to see them guys down there, Hugh Martin. Them guys go to football camp down there, and they make all these pledges, and actually played state championship 2 years ago against Cherokee. But anyway, other than that, man, FCA's been great to me and my family. I mean, I was born and raised in the church, and I've learned a lot. And think about it, I told somebody else, I don't know who I was talking to, but I said, you know, being a follower of Christ, that's not a sprint, that's a marathon. I mean, that's something you live, you grow every day. Even I learn something every day. I'm not perfect. I'm never going to say I'm perfect, but I try to work hard at everything I do, and staying in the Word is part of it. And I do a devotion about every morning, and actually I started at night and I finished it in the morning because that's just what I love to do. I kind of started that habit a long time ago, and that's kind of got my day started.
And I follow you. I read a lot of the devotions you post on Facebook. I'm friends with Coach on there, and you guys, you check him out if you're on Facebook. Just look up Lemont Jones, and every morning just about he's got some scripture on there. So the kids, just watching you interact, the kids are so lucky to have someone like you. You're that Christian role model that we're looking for, that we would want our own kids to have. I know that I would if I had a kid playing in Polk County. Hey, the last thing I want to ask you before we get out of here, Coach. Advice to young players or parents of young players, advice to the parents of, give me some advice. Give us some advice to make us a little better, or make our walk with Christ better in sports, or how to conduct ourselves if we're young, or a young coach, or a parent of a kid. And Coach, give us some advice.
I would say I wished people would be better listeners. I always tell kids, learn to listen. Just don't hear. Listen a little bit, and then make reading a habit. I said, the more you read, the more knowledge you're going to get. And sooner or later, that Bible will fall out there and you start understanding the word. I said, but learn how to, read. Learn how to read. I mean, just make reading a habit and be a better listener. Just don't hear what's going on. Know what's going on. Listen. And parents, I would just tell the parents, let those kids be kids. Let them grow up. Let them make mistakes, because they're going to make some, but let them make mistakes, but always be there for them. But sometimes, parents, they kind of helicopter a little bit. And then I tell parents all the time, I got an open door policy, and sometimes I'm brutally honest because I want you to know the truth. And I always tell kids, Mom and Dad ain't going to tell you the truth. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to tell you why you're not playing. I said, and I'm going to tell you how you can play. And and things like that. I think parents just need to let kids grow up and make mistakes, but always be there for them. Because I just had a mom growing up, but I didn't have a father. But my mom let me make a lot of mistakes, but she was always there. And I try to let my kids go out and do the same thing. In fact, I let my players do the same thing. But I'm always there to listen. I'm always there to listen. And if you're always there, they're going to remember that. I mean, I get phone calls all the time. Coach, I just want to see how you're doing. I'm doing great. Tell me about yourself. Coach, I appreciate you talking to me tonight. Things of that nature. You never know, you never know who really needs your ear. And because sometimes I need somebody to listen to me. Because my wife would tell me, shut up and go to bed. But other than that, she's a good listener also.
And that's great advice. And I'll tell you what stuck with me, the nugget I took from you, Coach, and advice to young people. Yes, sir, it'll take you a lot further than a 4.5. I mean, that is a nugget of wisdom right there. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Yeah, that's a lost art nowadays. And thanks for that nugget. Coach, before we get out of here and we pray us out of here, I just want to encourage people. It's up back here. If you're a coach on my screen, FCAcoachesacademy.com, 3D coaching, how to coach the mind and the heart of young athletes. It's a free course. It's time consuming, but it's well worth it. I would encourage any youth league, high school, middle school, any coach, if you haven't gone through that, I would go through that. And also, if you don't have a relationship with Jesus Christ, that's something that you can have that's absolutely free. You can message me. Coach Jones, I'm sure you can message and be glad to lead you through those steps. But thank you so much. And I'm gonna pray us out of here and then kind of lead into next week. And I'll pray us out. Coach Jones, dear Lord, we raise Coach Jones up to you. We thank you for him being willing to come on here and share his heart and share about you too, Jesus Christ. We are so fortunate to have coaches like Coach Jones working with the youth in Western North Carolina, dear Lord. What a blessing to have a leader like that with our future leaders, dear Lord. And we continue a blessing on his program and a blessing on his family. And we just pray that you be with all on this call, dear Lord, that we can come to know you more. In Jesus Christ's name I pray, amen. Before I tell Coach, thank you, next week you don't want to miss, we got Coach Mike Wilbanks. He married a girl with Western North Carolina ties, Henderson County. He's the head football coach at Shelby High School. Shelby High School has the most wins of a program, of any program in the state. He's a state champion coach as well. But more importantly than that, he's a good guy, and he's very much like Coach Jones here, and he shares Christ with his players on a consistent basis, and he models that. So you don't want to miss that. The next 2 weeks after that, Jeff Frady, head football coach at Inca High School, and then Chris Ferguson will be on the week after that, and he spent a 30-year career coaching basketball in the SEC, ACC, and the Big 12 from Hendersonville High School. So got a lot coming up every Monday night. Be right here on Facebook Live. Coach Jones, man, thank you so much for coming on here.
I appreciate it.
A friend of mine. I love watching what you do with those kids in Polk County. Anything you want to say before we get out of here, Coach?
I appreciate being on here tonight. Anytime you need somebody, just call me. This is what we do. This is what we do for each other. And yes, I'm going to hold you to it. I'm going to need a speaker here whenever we decide how we're going to do our club day.
Put me down, whatever you need, Coach.
Sounds good.
Till next Monday night, God bless.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.